Welcome to Read and Screech, the podcast for my family, where if you've been told you're too loud and you have no standards, you can sit with us. At some point, it's going to just be like, that's our tagline, is this is the podcast for my family, except for that's exactly who would be ashamed. They would be ashamed to be associated with us. Sometimes I'm talking and then you just yell something into the microphone and then my good comedy gets overshadowed by random noises. Okay, the book that we're reviewing this week is called The Only One Left. It is by Miss Riley Sager. It's narrated by Christine Lagan and Don Harvey. It's 398 pages. It is 12 hours and 32 minutes if you listen to it. 4.2 stars on Goodreads. It's first person point of view.
I hate that too.
It does have two different timelines, but it's not annoying. It's the best book so far. It's very good. I have almost
I
no
don't
complaints.
believe you because we did do Twilight.
That was the
Yeah,
best.
but
We had a lot to shit on about Twilight.
I didn't have anything to shit on. I liked the whole thing.
No, I literally
Except for the weird age.
I have audio proof of you shitting on a few things. Going, it was terrible.
I didn't like that she was a Mormon, and I didn't catch that.
You didn't
And
like
that he
the
was
fact-
15.
You didn't like that you didn't catch that she was a Mormon. She's
Yeah.
fine to be a Mormon. That's
Yeah.
her life choice.
That's what I said. I was like, it was fine that
You
she
said I
is a-
didn't like that she was a Mormon.
No, I said, and then I didn't catch it.
Okay,
I literally just said, you weren't listening to me. I said, I didn't pick up on that she was a Mormon. I didn't like that I didn't pick up on that she was a Mormon.
So the first.
It's fine if she wants to be a Mormon. I'm mad that I didn't notice.
Okay, so I put the first thing in my notes says that it is set in the late 80s in a coastal elite town in Connecticut. It's not accurate. It was Maine. It wasn't Connecticut. I just made that up. So it's set in the late 80s in an elite coastal town of Maine. The major players are Kit, who is a caregiver coming back to work from a 6-month suspension for suspicious circumstances around a client's death. Her mom has recently passed and her father barely speaks to her. We have Mrs. Baker, who is the main housekeeper of the client that she's going to be assigned to. And then we have Virginia Hope and Lenora Hope. Lenora Hope is an older lady who is notorious for a Lizzie Borden-style murder. She got polio when she was young after the incident and has been paralyzed and all but her left hand for her entire life. So there's the main storyline of the book, and then it's kind of spliced in between with flashbacks from Lenora. However,
This already feels like a shitload of people.
it's not. I just told you 4 people.
You said
You gave me an entire yearbook.
I gave you a paper to follow. You said mom,
I thought about doing that for this.
dad, girl, 2 old ladies. That's 5 people already. And I don't know any of their names. 2
I
old
know that you
ladies.
can literally kiss my ass. Pay attention.
If it's monumental, I can remember it. Do the SVU sound before their name. Maybe I'll remember.
Bum 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 Kit. Bum 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 Miss Baker. Virginia and Lenora Hope.
That's all I need to know. And you said there were 4, but then you said there was a dad.
There's other people in the world. I said these are the major people.
Okay. And then you said coming back to work. Where do they work?
She's a caregiver. So it happens in 2 different timelines. And just like before, I'm not going to make you, but I'm not going to flip, flop, snip, snap. So I'll do the same thing where I give you the majority of one and then I'll give you the next one. So obviously the first timeline is going to be in the past. At 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope. After that, she took a knife and stopped her mother's happy life.
In a world where you can write about anything, you wrote this poem.
Actual asshole.
No, thank you.
This is good. So
She wrote this poem for this book.
hey, someone wrote the Lizzie Borden poem and that wasn't good either. And that was for real life.
I know.
So we're going to start with Lenora's flashbacks. Mind you, she only has control of her left hand, so she's been typing these on a typewriter with one hand. So it starts at the very beginning with her admitting that she threw the murder weapon over a cliff. And she says that I'm not the good guy, but I'm also not the bad guy.
What if I'm not the hero? What if I'm the bad guy?
So she's turning 17, and for her birthday, her father gifts her a birthday portrait. So
Is it
basically,
a knife?
a portrait? No, a portrait is a portrait. He's making everyone in the family sit for them individually, and so she thinks that's a really sucky gift because it is. But the artist who's painting it is very handsome, but she hates it. Yeah. She hates it because she has to sit still for it. And her whole life, her sister, Virginia, and her dad have been very cruel to her. And they have like this weird game where he'll lock the girls in their room. And whoever asks to be let out first doesn't get let out. And she always caves because she hates being cooped up somewhere.
Okay, but if she knows that's how you lose, why does she play?
Because he'll leave them in there for like 8 hours. And finally she gets kind of crazy. And then whoever caves first loses. And the person who wins gets to decide how long they have to actually be stuck in the room for. So her sister would always win. And then she would lose. And then her sister would be like, yeah, leave her in there for another 12 hours. So then he was like, hey, for your birthday, you can sit still some more. So her mom is very nice, but she's addicted to laudanum and she's mentally ill. And her dad is an asshole and he screws the household staff. And we know this because Lenora walked in on it. She's good friends with some of the household staff. One of them is like the chef in training. His name is Archie.
One of them are fucking her dad, so she's not friends with all of them.
Some. I didn't say all, but some. And she meets another one named Ricky. He's a townie who's just started working at the estate. And she meets him when she's on the terrace. She's going to jump off of it because she hates her life so much. And then she meets him and she gets a huge crush on him and falls in love with him and decides not to jump off the terrace. They live in this big, creepy manor that's like on a cliff overlooking the rocky ocean below. Virginia knows that Lenora is in love, but she doesn't know with who. She is also an insufferable bitch, obviously, because of the whole locked in the room thing. Ricky grew up piss poor and he tells Lenora that she is not like other girls and they start fooling around and doing the do. Ricky almost immediately knocks Lenora up. No one ever told her about the birds and the bees. Ricky is excited because he loves her so much. No one noticed at first that she was pregnant because literally no one cared about her in the family. This nasty motherfucker says he's too proud to let her pay for their life with her inheritance and he's an asshole to her, but she still likes him. And he says I'll just figure everything out, and then he leaves.
Okay. That sounds good.
Archie is really nice to her about being pregnant. She lets him feel the baby moving.
No.
Being a good friend, he says he'll help her get an abortion if she wants. And he says he'll be there for her no matter what. He says if anyone ever hurts her, he will kill them. So Mrs. Baker is the housekeeper at that time as well. Lenora is looking for someone to help her because she's been pregnant for like 7 months at this point. And she's getting really fat and it's getting hard. And her dad tells her she needs to go on a diet, but she's really hungry. So she needs someone to help her go to a doctor in secret and sneak her food and everything. And so she walks in on the dad fucking Mrs. Baker, who is supposed to be their governess. And she's shocked that the rod was removed and replaced with something else. So Lenora bribes her to keep the pregnancy a secret. The day of the incident, of the Lizzie Borden incident, Ricky was supposed to come take her away and is seen sneaking into the house through the garage. That same night, Lenora is locked in her room by her sister.
Surprise.
Mm-hmm. So her sister figured out what was going on and figured out what she was trying to do. So she locked her in her room and then she had a panic attack and gave birth to the baby. The dad finds the baby and wants to throw it over the cliff. But Mrs. Baker says, no, I'll just take it. So Miss Baker takes the baby and gets out of town. Fast forward 50 some odd years and we open on Kit. Kit is in the home care office for her first assignment after her suspension. She gets stuck with a Lenora as a client because no one else wants her because her most recent client died in her care. The last nurse for Lenora noped out in the middle of the night and Kit has no choice but to take the case. No one will hire her in town, not even Walgreens. She has to leave for the case the same day, and it's a live-in assignment. She's okay with that because her dad doesn't talk to her anyway, and he's been sneaking around with his new girlfriend like a weirdo. Kit is in her early to mid-30s, and her 21-year-old neighbor sniffs around for a goodbye hump. Yeah, they've been like doing it because they didn't have anything better to do. His name is Kenny. She says, Kenny, go find someone your own age, sir. He's like, but I wanted to fuck you today.
Kenny?
So she gets to the house. It's huge and creepy. and it's tilted a little bit because of the cliff. The staff are dressed like they are straight out of a Spirit of Halloween discount rack. There's like a little maid, and she has to wear a French maid outfit.
Why?
And then Archie is still there, the cook from way before, but he has to wear like plaid pants and a white top like a chef. Like,
is he wearing a hat?
Yeah.
Chef hat.
Yes.
And
And
they're ghosts. They're not real.
and then she makes Kit wear like an old-timey nurse uniform where that hat looks like a paper crane. And it's like a little white dress instead of scrubs. Mm-hmm.
Like the Downton Abbey nurse outfit.
Yep. So right whenever you walk in the house, there's like this hall of all the portraits that were being painted right before the family was murdered. And all but one of them are covered up. So only the one
Are
of
they animated like the portraits in Harry Potter? They start
No,
hollering
that
at you.
That would have been great. Only the one of Lenora is still up, and they say it's because all the other ones were murdered. There's 2 other new household employees. Jesse, the one who has to wear the French maid uniform, and then there's a groundskeeper named Carter, and he's kind of hot. So Mrs. Baker and Archie, who's the chef, they were employed when the incident happened, but they were not on site when
So
it
they're
happened.
a million years old.
They're like in their everyone's like in their 70s because they were in their 20s when it happened.
They were on site when it happened. They were 6 months old in their crib.
No, Archie was 18 when it happened because he was Lenora's age, but Mrs. Baker was like mid-20s, early 30s when it happened. Mrs. Baker is very strict and has a bunch of weird rules. They're not allowed to call Lenora by her first name. They have to call her Mrs. Hope. They're not allowed to take her outside. She has to stay in her room. So they have like very, very specific rules about what she's like allowed to do and what they're allowed to do with her. She has to feed her and bathe her and do all the stuff because only her left hand works. And she can nod her head a tiny bit, but it takes a lot of effort.
Witches.
Sure.
One of these times, I'm going to say this sounds like, and it's going to be that. And you're going to be like, wait a second. And I'll be like, yes, I got one.
So the little French maid gives her a tour, and there's still blood in the places where people were murdered. There's like still stains.
So she's a shitty maid because that's her job.
No, this girl is like 18, and this shit happened 50 years ago.
So, but no one
She's
cleaned
not
it up.
Shitty maid. There's nothing she can do at this point. Which is now when we take a quick pause so I can tell you a story. Okay, so when we lived in Georgia, I don't know if I told you this or not. We were looking at like houses to buy, and we found this little townhouse. There was this really cute little development. So there was a bunch of houses, and they were all like a medium price point. And then there was one that was a lot cheaper, but it didn't have any like structural problems with it. And so we went to go see it. And when we went to go see it, like there was a bunch of stuff still stuffed in the house, which is kind of weird. And it was a little off, but then we went upstairs and we went to the master bedroom, and there was a massive fucking puddle of blood, like a thick dry spot next to the bed.
Next to the...
And then it trailed down the stairs.
A murder.
It trailed down the stairs, and so did a smeared handprint.
1-800-HOMICIDE house.
And our realtor was like, probably nothing happened here.
Probably nothing.
He was trying to make a sale.
They didn't have to tell you.
They didn't. I tried so hard to figure out what happened there, and I couldn't. So I think whatever happened wasn't reported. Like, there was no news, no crime reported, nothing.
He didn't know.
Well, now we know, and I still have nightmares about that place because it was horrifying. So they're going on the weird murder tour, and the maid is like talking about how the previous nurse left because she thought that she was seeing a ghost there. And so they get a Ouija board out, and the little maid plays a joke on Kit and pretends that they contacted the spirit of the sister who died. But she was just fucking around. She was just being an asshole. Right. She does say her theory that the artist who painted those pictures did it because he was like an extra person that was spending a lot of time with the family. And some people thought that one of the sisters had a crush on him because he was cute. And all of the belongings of the previous nurse are still there. So she left in the middle of the night, supposedly, but all her stuff is still there to the point where Kit has to wear the uniforms with her name written in them. Her name was Mary. So Kit and Lenora bond over the shared experience of being blamed for something that is possibly not their fault. So Kit asks Lenora, does she miss her parents? And she says yes. And she says, do you miss your sister? And she says no. We find out that the client that
miss that old bag.
We found out that the client that passed away in Kit's care was her mom and that it was an overdose. So basically, she was a caregiver for a long time, and then her mom got sick really quickly, and she was gonna quit the agency to take care of her mom, but her mom was a really nice person, didn't want her to be without an income that whole time, so she hired her from the place. She hears someone in Lenora's room that night, but when she gets up to go check on her, there's no one in there. Lenora tells Kit that she wants to share her side of the story for the first time ever and starts typing it one-handed on a typewriter. Kit is walking around the grounds and sees someone walking around in Lenora's room. She freaks out, and Carter, the cute groundsman.
He's not cute. Oh, my bad. I thought you were referring to the 80-year-old groundsman. He's not cute!
That is Archie, and he's the chef.
My bad. Take it back. Take it back now, y'all.
She starts to have a hearty freak out, and Carter swoops in, calling her Mary on accident. And she's like, I'm not Mary. I am wearing her clothes, though. He takes her to his little cottage that he gets to live in on the grounds and tells her that he used to be a bartender. And then one of his regulars recommended him as a replacement for this position. Apparently, Mary, the former nurse, looked a lot like Kit, which is also kind of creepy.
This is getting weird.
He says that his theory is that the groundskeeper at the time named Ricardo was responsible.
This is like Clue. They all have a different idea.
It's so Clue-like. I think that's why I loved it. It's very Clue. So Clue.
I think it was Ricardo in the...
I should have told you that at the beginning that it was like a very Clue vibe. I love it. Kit puts together that Ricky...
with the gardening shears.
To remember how Lenora said that she fell in love with Ricky. So Kit puts together that Ricardo is probably Ricky. She asks Lenora to tell her if this Ricardo guy did it or not. Lenora says no. And so then Kit says, well, then just type the name of the person who did it on this typewriter.
Well, maybe she doesn't know.
She was there. She's the only person that lived. She had a bloody nightgown, and she admitted that she threw the murder weapon over a cliff to hide it.
And didn't go to jail?
No. Because that was all the evidence they had.
Why was she hiding it?
I would love to tell you.
It doesn't feel like you would love to.
She asks Lenora to tell her if this Ricardo guy did it. Lenora says no. So then Kit says, can you just type the name of the person on this typewriter then? This nifty typewriter here.
This handy dandy.
And Lenora says, you can watch me type this story 1 word per minute.
Oh my God.
Eventually, I will tell you what happens.
Bitch.
She does say that she was in love with Ricky back.
We got that.
Right.
Thank you.
So
I
Kit
don't care who you love back in the day.
Kit has nightmares that her mom is shoving pills down her throat and then is startled awake hearing someone in Lenora's room again. She gets up, runs in there. She doesn't see anyone but Lenora in the exact same position she left her in because she is paralyzed. The next morning, however, when she goes into the room, the paper they had been typing on is flipped over as if someone has been reading it. She tells Lenora that she won't help her type anymore unless she tells her who's been in the room. And she says, it was Virginia.
The sister?
Yes.
The dead sister.
Yes.
What does that bitch want? Tell her if she gotta come in here, she gotta do some work. She gotta clean up some of this fucking blood.
Kit tries to get reassigned, but her boss says sorry, but no. Kit has no money and no prospects and is already a burden to her parents. She decides she is not going to let Lenora write anymore because ghosts aren't real and she has been trifling.
People have no rights.
She is also determined to figure out what these weird noises and shadows have been. So she goes outside.
And she thinks she can yank away the one right that poor woman had.
Bro,
bitch. I'm just going to take away your fucking typewriter. Fuck off.
Your main, primary mean of communication.
Right. You're paying me, but I don't give a rat's ass. Give me your goddamn typewriter. Fuck out of here.
She goes outside to see if there's a loose shutter or something that would cause like these weird noises she's been hearing. And while she's at it, she looks over the cliff at the ocean below. The tide is low.
And there's some gardening shears sticking up out of the sand.
No, but she does see the body of the former nurse, Mary, down at the bottom of the cliff.
Nuh-uh.
Dead.
Did she get murked or did she jump? And also, wouldn't she be a skeleton?
Yes. No, because she literally left. And then that same day, like the next day after she left, they had to immediately get a new caregiver.
Be like a whole dead fish.
So it's been like 5 days. The police find a suicide note in Mary's pocket.
Sure they do. Okay.
It says, I'm sorry, I'm not who you thought I was.
Okay. who I thought you was who you told me you was when you took this job.
The detective who investigated Kit after her mom died is the one who comes to look into Mary's death. His name is Detective Vic. He says that he also worked at the estate in 1929.
So these are all people are all 100 years old in this town.
It is in the 80s. So it's been 50, and this happened in 1929.
People don't keep jobs for 50 years, Grace.
No, he quit and became a police officer. He worked there as a teenager. They try to go question Lenora, but she is trifling and she pretends that she doesn't know
Yeah, they took her typewriter away. I would be trifling too.
No, she pretends she doesn't know how to type when they ask her questions. So that makes Kit mad. The minute he leaves and Kit comes back, Lenora is already tapping away.
Good.
She says that Mary was acting weird and creeped out before she jumped off the cliff. And Kit says, of who? And Lenora says, of my sister.
Yeah. Who was already visiting. You already said that. You don't believe me, that's your problem.
Right. So Jessie, the little French maid, is very sad that Mary is dead and says that a few weeks before she died, she had stopped laughing at all the ghost jokes they used to make. And she shows Kit a picture of Mary and Lenora typing. So Kit thought she was special and that Lenora was like only talking to her. But
You're not special.
Turns out Mary was the special one, and she had a really close bond with Mary. And Mary's the first person that she told about all this stuff.
She just kept it trucking with what's her name?
Mm-hmm. So Lenora tells Kit that she had already told Mary the entire story, and that Mary disappeared that same night that she had finished telling her everything.
Told her or typed? That's why she's typing it this time, so it can't disappear with the
No,
dead
like she
girl?
had typed everything out the first time. Mary had the whole thing and took it, and they thought that she had just taken it and left, but it turns out she had died that same day.
Did she have it with her? Down there dead?
Hold on. So Kit goes back to the closet. She's kind of rifling through Mary's stuff, trying to find see if like the pages are still there. And she notices that the only thing missing from the closet is like there's like an empty space where like a suitcase would have been. So she thinks, okay, probably there was a suitcase with these pages in it, and probably whoever, like if Mary was murdered, whoever murdered her took the suitcase with the pages in it, or if she wasn't murdered, then she took it somewhere and then jumped off the cliff.
Okay.
So she calls Detective Vic to talk to him about this, and he dismisses her again. He tells her what the suicide note said, and then he tells her to calm down and hangs up.
Calm down.
Carter finds her while she's on the phone with the Detective Vic, and he's drunk and heard the whole conversation. He says that it's his fault Mary's gone. He says that the guy who willed him this job, his name was Tony, and that guy had found an old-timey photo of Lenora pregnant. Carter was adopted. So he thinks that there's a chance that he might be the grandson of Lenora. And he's trying to figure that out. So Mary was trying to help him, and he thinks that in Mary, with her getting tangled up and all that, that she was killed. He thinks especially because the people who have worked on the grounds the whole time, like the place will go to them because there's no living family members. And so it's been like pre-willed to them if Lenora dies. So that gives motive for them to kill someone who would be helping prove that Carter is the grandson, which these people are like 75. You think they're going to murder you for a 5-year stay at this weird decaying mansion?
Weird, but okay.
The cliff is like falling into the sea piece by piece, and every time it does, the house shifts a little bit, so that's kind of weird. And there's these like big cracks in the walls that get bigger and bigger. For the first time, there are no noises coming from Lenora's room this night. In the morning, Kit asks where the baby went, and she just says, gone. And then Lenora withdraws and doesn't want to talk to her anymore.
We threw that off the cliff, too.
Archie comes to check on them and says that Lenora was never pregnant and tells her to stop digging around. But she already saw the picture of her pregnant,
Right.
so why is he lying?
Okay, thanks. You and me to the end of the line, babes. That's Archie on the back of Archie's t-shirt.
So Kit puts headphones on Lenora so that she can talk to Carter without her hearing, which felt very disrespectful.
Again, you just like elder abuse.
And when she comes back to check on her, it's been turned off.
First off, I am seeing why this woman lost her job. Fully.
Oh, yeah.
I would be willing to call
I thought
that's
that's
board for her full on.
I thought that the whole time.
Like, red flag.
So there's this snow globe. Like, Lenora has very few possessions.
Because the nurses take them from her.
No, not because of that, but because she's been paralyzed for her whole life. She only has a couple personal belongings because those are the only things that, like, she collected while she was fully able-bodied. One of them is the typewriter, which was a gift from her mom.
Yeah, they're going to take that away.
And then the other one is this snow globe.
Oh, good. I hope she takes that, too.
The other one is this snow globe. It has the Eiffel Tower in it. And she had wanted to travel to France really bad when she was younger, before all this stuff happened. So her mom bought her a typewriter and says, you can write about all the adventures you want to have in France. And they gave her this snow globe also from France.
Okay.
So Kit decides that Lenora has been lying about how disabled she is because the tape player stopped with no explanation. Some townies flock to the outside of the house and start taunting Lenora because that's just what they do. Like, they chant that weird poem and yell at her and tell her she's a murderer and all this stuff because nobody knows that she has polio and she's paralyzed. They all think she's just very reclusive. They don't know that she's a fucking disabled woman.
Oh my God.
Mrs. Baker did not come to fuck around. She runs outside with a shotgun. It is not necessary because Kit runs one of them down, and it's Kenny. He's like, we were just having some fun.
Oh my God. Well, congrats. You fucked that dude.
So, morning and evening the next day. The next morning, she goes into Lord Nora's room to check on her, and on the typewriter is written over and over and over and over and over again, it's all your fault, it's all your fault, it's all your fault, it's all your fault. That's creepy. So Kit decides she's going to get down to the bottom of this once and for all because Lenora is the only person that could have written all that on the typewriter, and it was across the room from her bed. She crumbles up a piece of paper. She tries to, like, trigger her reflexes. So she, like, drops a piece of paper in her hand to see if it, like, she'll grab it by reflex. She doesn't. So she keeps, like, poking her and prodding her.
It never once occurred to her to just stay up and see who was coming in the room at night.
Well, because, I don't know.
Ring camera. None of that shit.
It's the 80s. They didn't have Ring cameras in the 80s?
It didn't occur to her to just stay up and see who was peeping in the room at night.
I don't know if she stayed up. They might not come over.
So hide in the closet, hide under the bed, throw paper at a disabled lady and see if she catches it.
She almost goes and gets a needle to poke her with it, but she doesn't do that. I was like, oh my God, I hope she doesn't do that. She doesn't. But she goes and she gets the snow globe, and she's like, this is like one of her, literally,
I'm gonna drop it.
One of the only two possessions that she has to, like, in the world that she cares about. And she drops it into her hand to see if she'll catch it. She doesn't catch it because she's fucking paralyzed, and it shatters on the floor. It was so hard to read. I literally out loud, I
this
said,
person is just a monster.
Out loud, I went, the snow globe! No!
So she's just a horrendous bitch. I hope she falls off the cliff.
So she feels really bad.
She should.
She agrees to take Lenora outside while the rest of the staff are at Mary's funeral in exchange for more information. Lenora backs out on the deal, however, once she's outside. She says, fuck you, bitch. This is for the snow globe. And she says, I'm not going to tell you the rest of it.
Good. What?
Kit decides, no. You're going to tell me. So she runs inside to get the typewriter, but it's like a really old timey.
She's going to eat the typewriter too?
She's like trying to make her tell it.
Yes. I've already broke your snow globe. I guess I'm pitching your typewriter off the cliff, and then you'll have nothing and no one, and I will win.
So she goes to get the typewriter to make her type really heavy because it's an old-timey typewriter.
She fucking breaks it!
Can I tell it? She takes a long time to get the typewriter because it's so heavy. Meanwhile, this disabled lady is laying in the grass. Fully paralyzed lady just laying in the grass. And when she finally gets to the outside, Lenora is back in her wheelchair. And all the staff had returned while she was inside.
And she wasn't supposed to take her out.
Not only was she not supposed to take her outside, but she also wasn't supposed to leave her by herself for half an hour so that she could haul this antique typewriter down the stairs.
Good. I'm glad she got caught. She's a cunt. I hope she gets fired. And the book ends.
Mrs. Baker throws the typewriter off the cliff because she's like, what the?
Tired of the nonsense?
Literally. She's like, what the fuck has all this been about?
I knew it was going off the cliff. As soon as she threw the snow globe, I was like, that typewriter's going off the cliff. Yeah. But I want to know why it took her half an hour to get it out of the room, but Mrs. Baker could chuck it off the cliff.
Miss Baker ain't no bitch.
She's like, I've been working out in preparation for this day, and this day has come.
Miss Baker does not come to play. She brought that shotgun. She hauled that typewriter over the cliff. She is very protective of Lenora. So now Lenora has lost her snow globe and her typewriter.
God!
Archie kind of like pulls Kit aside and he's like, hey, I've been the one that's been checking on her because she's been my best friend since I was fucking 17 years old.
It's not your business.
Right. And she's like, you said that you guys weren't friends like that anymore. And he's like, yeah, because she's been paralyzed for 50 years. So we're not as close as we used to be because she can't speak to me. But I'm still going to check on her every night because she's been my best friend since I was 16. And she's like, oh, okay. So that's been who's been up in her, like, in her room.
I told you, if you had waited around, you would have seen who it was, you stupid fucking
So, like, every night and then sometimes during the day, he'll come up and tuck her in and say goodnight and, like, chat with her for a little bit.
I hate her so much.
It's a good book, though.
No, it's not. It's awful.
It's good. Books sometimes have people in them that you hate, and the book is good because you're supposed to hate them.
I would have stopped reading this.
No, you wouldn't have. It was very good. So Kit thinks that she's fired.
I'm proud of you that you put that together. You didn't put a lot of other things together. But
So
you put that together.
She goes ahead and sneaks into Mrs. Baker's room.
Oh, good.
Nothing left to lose. She finds photos of Miss Baker and some handsome man like traveling through Europe. So the story with Miss Baker was that she had worked for the family way back when. And then the tragedy happened. And she left and traveled Europe for a while with her fiance. And then the fiance died. So then she came back and realized that Lenora had gotten polio and was sick and just decided to come back and take care of her again. So she finds the pictures of Miss Baker with the fiance. She also sees checks that are written to a retirement home under the name of another staff that used to work there way back in the day. So she's like, they had to fire pretty much everyone else because there's like the money from the family has been dwindling. So why have you been giving money for this random staff member for years and years and years and years? Because there's like tons of checks in there for $1,000 dated years and years and years back. She says, fuck it. I'm just going to go and talk to this lady at this retirement home. I've got nothing else to lose right now.
Why is she so obsessed with these fucking strangers?
Well, at this point, it's like that girl was killed. And she has tried multiple times to leave the job, but she really literally can't. She finds the checks that are written out to Miss Bernice Mayhew. She goes to this retirement home, finds a lady named Bernice Mayhew. In order to get in, they don't want to let her in.
Oh, shit.
Right. And so she...
We heard about you. You like to throw people's personal possessions on the ground.
She lies and says that she's like from the health insurance company or something. And so they let her in. And she talks to Bernice. She's like, hey, why are they paying you $1,000 a month? And Bernice says, bitch, I kept my mouth shut for 50 years. What makes you think I would talk to you? And Kit says that is fair. And she says, well, basically...
They've been paying my bills. They're not going to pay it if they find out I told you.
Bernice, two things. Bernice was married to Ricardo but the whole time.
Ew.
Mm-hmm. Bum, bum, bum. The night of the incident, she saw Ricardo sneaking in through the garage to go meet with Lenora. She also then saw Lenora chucking the knife off the cliff.
So she knows they're doing something.
Yes. They've been paying her off all these years because she saw that. So she says, I should have known that little blue-eyed bitch would seduce my husband. So Kit gets discovered. The lady from the front desk is like, you don't work for the insurance company. And she calls Detective Vic. And Detective Vic says, Kit, why are you always doing shit? But they don't arrest her. They just let her on her way back to the estate. She puts 2 and 2 together, or 7 and 7 together. She says, blue-eyed bitch. Lenora does not have blue eyes.
Does Miss Baker?
Miss Baker has blue eyes. She gets to the house. She rips the covers off the portraits. Mrs. Baker looks an awful lot like Lenora. And the picture that was supposed to be of Lenora, the last one left, looks an awful lot like Virginia. So the person that she's been taking care of, Lenora, does not match the picture on the wall that's labeled as Lenora. She's been taking care of this old lady, calling her Lenora. But remember, Miss Baker always said, call her Miss Hope. Call her Miss Hope. Call her Miss Hope. And they're like, that's weird. Why do we have to call her? Why can't we call her by her first name?
Yeah.
She said, call her Miss Hope.
The cook is like in on it.
She realizes that the woman she's been caring for, calling Lenora, is really the older sister, Virginia. And the person who's been parading around as Miss Baker is really the younger sister, Lenora. They finally just tell her. Lenora / Miss Baker is finally like, okay, whatever, I'll fucking tell you. Virginia was the one who had the baby. The dad wanted to throw it off the cliff.
I knew somebody wanted to eat it off the cliff.
Asshole dad wanted to throw it off the cliff. So Miss Baker took it to Canada. The real Miss Baker took it to Canada. No one saw them again. Virginia snapped. She grabbed a knife. She went to go hunt down the parents. She found her dad in the billiard room, went to go stab him with the knife. Her mom said, no. Let me do it.
Okay, sure.
I gotta check.
Why not?
So the mom stabbed the dad and then came out to the foyer where Ricky had come for Virginia. He did come to take her away that night. The mom decided that she didn't want to live anymore, and she tried to bait Ricky into killing her. She started calling him like this broke-ass motherfucking townie and all this stuff. It works. He does stab the mom, and then he runs out. Virginia says, get the fuck out of here, you piece of shit. Like, I didn't like them that much. I did want to kill them. But you actually killed them. Virginia, in a sudden state of distress, decides to kill herself. So she tries to hang herself by jumping off the balcony with a noose around her neck. Lenora, who was just minding her business being a fucking bitch, because remember originally she had locked Virginia in the room to give birth alone. She comes trotting along after braiding her hair or whatever and sees Virginia hanging from the chandelier.
Charming.
She takes the chair away, which at first seems very, very cruel, and she hides the chair because she thinks Virginia is dead, and she throws the murder weapon over the cliff. What she really was doing was she was trying to take away the fact that it was a suicide, because she knew that people would assume that Virginia had killed the parents and then tried to kill herself. So she was like, if I make it look like someone came and killed everyone, then they won't assume it was Virginia. So she was trying to she thought her sister was dead and she just wanted to clear her name in her death.
Right.
So Lenora covered up the suicide to try to keep Virginia from being a suspect. Archie and Ricardo were lovers. Ricky was just a townie. So Ricky and Ricardo were not the same person. Ricardo was married to that lady they paid off. She assumed that he was having an affair with one of the girls. Really, he was having an affair with Archie. So the reason that Archie and her were never together was because he was gay. And the reason he is so loyal to her even now is because she loved him no matter what. And she was his best friend, even though other people were going to probably treat him like shit for that. So Kit decides, with all of this truth-telling, that she wants to tell her dad what really happened the night her mom died.
Jesus. If it wasn't a whole murder, then it's not worth it.
She says that she left the pills that her mom overdosed on out on purpose, knowing her mom might kill herself. She calls her dad. She says, I want to come home. I want to tell you what happened. I want to clear the slate. I realize that secrets don't benefit people. Carter tries to stop her while she's leaving. Instead, he ends up getting in the car and leaving with her. Mind you, we still don't know who killed Mary. While they're in the car, she deduces that he was the one who must have killed Mary because she could prove that he actually wasn't Virginia's grandson. He quit his job that he had before and did all this because he was so convinced that he was her secret grandson. He's not. She holds a corkscrew to his neck and tells him to get out the car because she's now afraid that he's dangerous. She goes home to see her dad, and on his bed is Mary's missing suitcase. Dad's name is Patrick. Ricky is short for Patrick.
What?
She goes home to see her dad, and on his bed is the suitcase with a tube of blood and a stack of papers that Virginia had originally written. She only now realizes that Patrick could have been short for Ricky. So Carter had convinced Mary to do a blood draw on Lenora, who they thought was Lenora, to see if they had a compatible DNA. So that's what she had in the suitcase. She finds the suitcase with the papers and the blood on her dad's fucking bed. But no dad. She thinks she knows where dad could have gone. She races back to the estate. Dad is in there with Virginia, touching her face and shit.
Touching her face?
Because he thought she was dead. Everyone thought Virginia was dead.
That doesn't explain why he felt the need to touch her face.
He was like touching her face and fawning all over and being like, "Oh, I loved you." Dad says, "It's fine. I'm just gonna put her softly to sleep like I did your mom." So this whole time she's blamed herself for her mom dying because she thinks it's because she left the pills out, but really her dad off the mom by giving her too many of the pills. And he says, "It's cool. I'll just do the same thing to Virginia. No worries."
Jesus.
Lenora comes through again with her motherfucking shotgun. She says,
"Okay."
The old people throw hands. There's a full-on fist fight of Lenora and Ricky. Lenora falls down the stairs and it's totally fine.
Okay.
The house starts to shift again, and Lenora decides to go down with the ship. Exactly. She says, "You know what? It's Virginia's turn to live on the outside." So basically, this whole time, according to the public, only one of the sisters is alive and the other one died. So that's the reason she was never allowed outside. So she's like, "We can't both be alive." And so she says, it's Virginia's turn to live outside. Ricky decides to go down with the ship too. So Ricky and Lenora, who are basically like in-laws, they hold hands as the house falls into the ocean.
He just found his girlfriend, but he decides to die with her sister.
Yeah, because he killed his wife, and then he low-key tried to kill Virginia, too. Kit barely makes it out of collapsing house with Virginia, and she takes her back to the house where her dad lived before he died just then, and she starts to take care of her there.
Damn, double homicide.
Which I'm like, you owe it to her after the whole snow globe incident, to be honest.
You owe her. You have to take her parents to get her new snow globe.
They bond a little bit more. And then one day she comes home to make her dinner or whatever, and she's gone. And she leaves a note. It is a written note, not a typewritten note. It was written with her hand. And she says, "LOL, I faked it for 50 fucking years."
What?
She says, "Look, here's what happened. My sister was a bitch when I was little, and they used to lock me in the room, so I got really good at fucking laying still. That's what you did." She says, "I did try to kill myself, and so when I lived, I was paralyzed for a little while. And then I just didn't want to move." So she was basically just catatonic. So she did get her movement back in her arms and legs and everything. But at that point, her sister had left her to go run around Europe with her new boyfriend, pretending to be Miss Baker. She came back. Virginia had nothing to live for because her boyfriend was gone. Her baby was taken away from her and her parents were murdered. And it was going to be blamed on her if people thought she was still alive. So she said, "You know what? You know how you used to trap me in the room? I'm going to trap you," because she knew that Lenora would be obligated to take care of her for the rest of her life. So she said, "I'll play the long game." And she pretended to be paralyzed because she knew that as long as she was paralyzed, Lenora couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, she could have killed her and left her there.
She wouldn't. Because like they were sisters, so they weren't going to like kill each other. But they didn't like each other.
People kill each other all the time for way less than that.
Well, she knew she wouldn't. And Lenora had gone so far as to cover up the fact that she thought Virginia had done it originally.
Bro.
So
Things happen. That would not have worked. You would shrivel up and your legs wouldn't work very good.
No, because she was getting up in the middle of the night and walking around the room. So first she writes a note saying, "I'm going to go live my life for a little bit. Sorry for lying to you." And then a couple weeks later, she gets another letter in the mail. And it's postmarked from Paris. And she says,
"Want myself a new snow globe, bitch."
She says, "By the way, Carter definitely was not my grandson, but Jessie, the little French maid, was my granddaughter." So Jessie had done similar to Carter, where she figured out pretty much who her grandmother was. She figured out almost immediately that Virginia was faking it. All the nurses for 50 years, all the king's horses and all the king's men for 50 years could not figure out that she was faking being paralyzed. And the little French maid figured it out in like 2 hours. And so what Jessie would do, she would record herself reading books for Virginia to listen to. And then she would sneak in little messages. So she would say like, "Chapter 1, blah, blah, blah. Chapter 2, I know you're faking being paralyzed."
Oh my God.
She says, "Fuck it." And so she reunites with Jessie. They go traveling in Paris. And then Virginia sends Kit and Archie tickets to come meet them in Paris. So they go on a group trip.
Oh my God.
And then the last bit of the book is like a news statement. And basically, she lived another 30 years.
Oh my God.
And she paid for Kit to come travel with her and be her travel companion for basically the rest of her life. And she wrote a book and she went on a bunch of talk shows
Ain't no fucking
for her mega grift being.
No fucking way I would have paid that. That girl sucked, first off. She broke your shit. She was a bad nurse. She took your typewriter away.
She was
tell
like,
you were faking it.
She said, no, here's the thing, because she said that Kit and Jesse were the only ones that suspected she was fake. So she did give Kit the props of that because she did break the snow globe, but it's because she was right about her faking it. So I guess she forgave her. She was like, bitch, you thought I've been doing this for 50 years and I was going to let it all go for a snow globe?
Right.
So in both...
Horrifying behavior from a nurse, though.
It was a page turner. It was so good.
Ugh.
We can't just, some of them are not to be shit on. Some of them are just really good books. It was a really good book.
No, this is exclusively things to be shit on, number one. Number two.
No, because we would have had shitty things to say and we didn't.
I do have shitty things to say. I think that was a bad person.
Oh, she was a bad person.
I think they were all bad people. I think it was a conglomerate of bad people, pretty much except for the little nurse. I mean, the little French maid.
Yeah.
That was a giant conglomerate of shitty people. That was like watching
here's the thing.
door.
It's really, it's crazy because it's like if you think that Lenora was a bad person because she left her sister to run around Europe and like locked her in the room and everything, it's like, wow, Lenora was a really shitty person. But then it's like, yeah, but she got hers because then her sister made sure that she was trapped in the house with her for the next 50
I don't know
years.
if I think she was a shitty person for that because
She literally said, I have nothing else to live for but to make you sit in this house with me like you did for the first 20 years of our lives.
See, because it feels very much like she just did it because like that's how they were raised. So it seemed normal. It wasn't like she just decided, oh, I want to do this. This is fun for me. It reeks very much of like, because it's like they didn't know better because their parent was like, this is what we're doing and it's shitty.
Yeah, but she says in there, she literally says, whenever Lenora was telling Kit what really happened, and Kit was like, okay, did she do it? Is Virginia the one that killed everyone? And Lenora said no, but I wouldn't blame her if she had because that's how bad we treated her. So she knew.
Yeah, but she didn't say it was my idea. She said we, and then you said the dad had her, like, I don't know, it just seems like a weird, I don't know.
Okay, so where are they now?
I feel like if she was mad at the sister, then they would have killed the sister that night. One and done. Like, the whole family would have died in that weird massacre.
If she was mad at the sister?
Yeah.
No, because she didn't kill anyone.
She was only mad at the dad. They only went to kill the dad. And then the mom.
And the dad was trying to pay off, at the time, the dad was trying to pay off Ricky. And not
that's like the genre.
Mm-hmm. I really wish I could get that kind of deal where I was so obnoxious to someone's family that they wanted to pay me to go away. That would be like a whole thing.
Take the money and then stay.
That'd be a whole bit. But then what if you were awful and they were like, we love her? Shit, you're supposed to pay me to go away.
I would take the money and then stay. And then show back up and they would be like, we paid it. You did what now? I don't know what you're talking about.
So where are they now? Where's Carter?
Hell. I don't know. Which one's Carter?
Carter is the guy that she blamed for Mary's death right before she realized that it was her dad that did it.
The man in the car?
Yeah.
Her dad killed Mary? Why? You never specified why the dad did that.
Okay, so the dad's motive to kill Mary was that the dad killed the mom.
Oh.
And if she figures out, if Mary was able to prove that the dad had a child with Virginia, then they would be able to probably figure out that he had been there. There was still blood in the house. That's why the dad wanted to kill Mary, because Mary came knocking on the door. She figured it out. And so she said, hey, can I get a DNA sample from you? Because I think I figured out who this person was.
Casually knocking on the doors in the neighborhood, looking for some DNA.
See, the thing is that Mary figured out that he was the person who'd had a child with Virginia. Because remember, Virginia had told Mary everything.
Right.
So she said, let me get a DNA sample from you so I can see if Carter has any relation. And he was like, LOL, no. By the way, I'm also going to murder you. Then he would be related to the incident, and he was the one that murdered the mom.
Okay.
You know who didn't figure this out? Detective Vic, who used to work there with all of them. He worked there while all this was happening.
Who all these players are.
Mm-hmm.
Still, it's just like, what?
He was like part of their friend group. and did not put these things together. So where's Carter now?
The last thing we heard about him was that he got wine thing jabbed in his throat.
That she tried to like force him out of the car with the corkscrew. And then she tried to go apologize to him when he went back to bartending, and he was like, I'm really turned off by the fact that you thought I murdered a nurse.
As he should. Obviously, he's still bartending.
Did you ever find his birth mom?
Apparently not.
And then what about Kenny? What's Kenny doing?
He's drinking in that bar.
Finally, because he's 21 now. What's Kit doing now that Virginia died? Her travel
God
companion.
almighty. First off, we all know that the keyword
I feel like she's like a hairstylist.
paying for a traveling companion back in the day just meant that was your girlfriend. So I think they ended up together.
Kit and Virginia?
I told you in the beginning that they were falling in love. And since we don't give a fuck about the ages in this story, and everyone can be 130 at the same time, they're in love and they ended up together.
No, but Virginia died. The very end of it is Virginia dying.
Yeah, okay, well, then
now she's a
she
widow?
went to her eternal rest and waited for her.
So Virginia's waiting for Kit on the other side?
Yep.
And what's Kit doing?
The opposite of that, but on this side. She's killing more people and breaking more snow globes for old people.
Well, she didn't technically kill the mom. This has been Read It and Screed. If you'd like to support the show, you can rate, review, and subscribe. You don't have to listen, but you can rate, review, and subscribe.
Listen to this one because it was real bad.
No, it wasn't. It's going to be fine.
I don't feel confident in that. I'm ashamed of this
I'm
episode.
gonna say the same. You know, we're going to go into this with the confidence that Blackstone Publishing publishes their novels, which is unwarranted. We are going to post this so hard